The second episode of Adventure Time Distant Lands has arrived on HBO Max, bringing with it all the cute lesbian vibes you could possibly ask for. If you're as big a fan of Bubbeline as I am, Obsidian is definitely for you. As soon as their relationship was officially confirmed in the series finale, I've been dying for a Marcy and Bonnie spinoff. This ep does an amazing job of bringing closure to their story, and if you were a fan of the BMO prequel, you'll be hella satisfied with this sequel. I'm Whitney Van Laningham, and today I'm breaking down Adventure Time Distant Lands Obsidian. Just a heads up, Obsidian recently came to HBO Max, and I don't want to ruin it for you. We've got lots to talk about with this special, so if you haven't seen it yet, get on HBO Max and come back once your heart is full of vampiric bubblegum. Now let's get jamming. There's a lot to get into with this one, from all the Bubbeline lore to the implications of Finn's cameo at the end of the episode. But let's rewind. When we last left off with PB and Marceline, they were laying in bed drinking hot cocoa, watching the Ice Thing perform puppetry for them. A decade or so later, I'm happy to report that the Princess of Candy Science and the Vampire Queen are still as adorable and in love as ever. Frankly, I wasn't too worried about this. I kinda doubted that Obsidian would pick up with the two of them in divorce court fighting over who gets custody of Marcy's band tea. That slow burn buildup was way too long, and we gays fought way too hard for this to see them break up. That doesn't mean that they don't have their problems, however. A lot of their previous stubbornness still lingers, proving that life isn't automatically a fairy tale forever once the credits roll. Real relationships take work. And although Princess Bubblegum and Marceline are wiser and more comfortable with one another, that doesn't mean that their past hang-ups and old habits disappeared. Marcy clearly still has problems opening up fully to Peebs, and PB is still a workaholic. We've seen this personality clash between PB and Marcy plenty of times before, and the special riffs off the fights and reconciliations they've had in the episode's What Was Missing and Varmints. We knew going in that the details of their first breakup involved Bubblegum's obsession with ruling her kingdom, and Marcy's rebellious apathy to the world around her as she chased the whims of her emotions. And in Obsidian, we finally get to see the wedge that tore the two apart. Roughly 500 years ago, Princess Bubblegum was called upon to save the Glass Kingdom from the dragon larvae. Despite all her scientific wizardry, however, Peebs was failing hard. She was literally trying to ensure that an entire civilization didn't die, and all Marceline cared about was rocking out and being the center of attention. Princess Bubblegum just wanted to be taken seriously by the world, to be treated like a genius hero for shouldering the weight of ooh on her back. Even though I normally side with Marcy, I gotta say, I think PB was acting with the greater good in mind here, and Marceline was pretty flippant about the lives of an entire kingdom. When PB yells at Marcy to leave, she calls Marcy monster trash. And in response, Marcy channels her angsty punk rock feelings into a cutting breakup song with super mean and ultra-specific lyrics. It's like a goddamn spill canvas song. I kinda love it. Marcy's performance has such a strong "don't cross me" aura that Larvo rightfully flees into hibernation. From then on, the Glass Kingdom refers to the Vampire Queen as Saint Marceline, giving her the honor that Bubblegum was seeking. Although we don't directly see the aftermath, it's clear that Marcy's emo breakup banger "Woke Up" drove the couple to centuries-long silence. Not only did Marceline achieve the valor Bubblegum wanted with frivolous ease, but she also prodded PB's insecurities publicly. This moment is likely responsible for driving Princess Bubblegum to expand the Candy Kingdom into the most prosperous nation of Ooh between the 500 years between this and the start of the series. As time passed, the Glass Kingdom's lore of Marceline denigrated despite being celebrated year after year. The lyrics to "Woke Up" eventually changed from "I'm so glad that I woke up, I'm sick of living under your thumb, I don't really care about your stupid Candy Kingdom," to "so mad at the coconut, I'm sick of living in the ocean, I don't really care about the stomping on the coconut." Not only is this loss of history natural, the Glass people aren't fond of reading up on their history, as shown by their bullying of Glass Boy for researching the original purpose of the Forge before it became Larvo's prison. Michaela Dietz, who we all know and love as the voice of Amethyst on Steven Universe, plays Glass Boy, a young, gutsy hero in training who reminds me a lot of young Finn. Adam Muto mentioned in his Comic-Con 2020 panel that Glass Boy would be like an amped-up version of Finn, and the character definitely delivers on that promise. He's naive, idealistic, and always ready to rush headfirst into the unknown, no matter how dangerous it might be. Unlike Finn, however, Glass Boy isn't a trained hero with fighting experience. He's a Marceline fanboy. But both he and Finn do have the same blind bravery, optimism, and willingness to do whatever it takes to get a princess's attention. Glass Boy's crush and the ruler of the Glass Kingdom is See-Through Princess. STP is an empathetic ruler who stands up for even the most outcast of her subjects. But unfortunately, she's surrounded by a lot of negative company. The other glass people are pretty judgmental, and sometimes their overpowering smack-talking prevents her from making the right decisions for all of them. The snobbiest of her glass frenemies is Sandy, played by Pug Mom and comedian Maria Bamford. Her pals Limeston and Sir Soda are just as fault-finding as she is, but Sandy is the ringleader in their bully trio. These glass holes will body shame you mercilessly if you even have the tiniest crack in your glass, and they even doubt that Marceline is the real deal when she shows up to save them. I'll get deeper into the thematic symbolism of the cracks a little bit later, but I do think it's worth mentioning that a majority of the glass people are depicted as hypocrites. Every glass person has their own cracks and faults, and yet they still harass Glass Boy for his crack, despite having more numerous and deeper breaks themselves. The concept of perfection is clearly held in high regard in glass culture, so in order to be accepted, the glass people have secretly hidden and repressed their faults. I don't think it's coincidental that this society that upholds an air of perfection and superiority through the literal guise of being transparent actively rejects researching their own history and passes harsh judgment onto others with flaws like their very own in order to cement their personal social standings. Maybe if they opened a book, they would have read the one about people in glass houses casting stones. I'm also reminded of another proverb here. Perfect is the enemy of good. While this often is expressed as a personal productivity mantra in order to help those who struggle with timeliness due to perfectionism, it sometimes can take on a larger, more impactful meaning. In this case, the glass people's societal concept of perfectionism is actively in opposition with the moral goodness of communal acceptance. In a struggle to hold up their own purity, the glass people have lost sight of their humanity, casting judgment to benefit their personal egos instead of sharing compassion as a means to create an environment that would benefit everyone and soothe the same personal anxieties their judgment desperately conceals. And really, this struggle with pristine and perfect idealism is at the core of Obsidian's theme for every character. Bubblegum, for instance, holds herself up to being a perfect leader, capable of solving any crisis with the logics of candy science. And when that fails, it causes her to hold a grudge against her ex for half a millennia. For Glass Boy, his physical imperfection drives him to risk awakening Larvo just for a shot at being accepted by his peers. And then there's Marcy, whose entire self-image going back to childhood is colored by her imperfections. In a series of flashbacks, we learn that after Marcy and her mother survived the initial mushroom blast, they went in search of shelters with fellow survivors. Along the way, it's clear that Marceline's mom struggles with a terminal illness, likely as a result of the radioactive bombings. When a zoinked-up coyote attacks, Marcy fights back by sucking its soul out of its body. The look of abject horror her mother has is one of the last memories she has of her, and it's a look that she's seen before thanks to her father being the fearsome king of the Nightosphere. It's obvious to us that Elise still loves Marcy more than life itself, but after she shields Marcy from witnessing her death by yelling at her, Marceline believes that she's been abandoned for her monstrous qualities. It's absolutely heartbreaking to know that Marceline spent over a millennia believing that she was unworthy of even her mother's love, that she spent so many years of her life in solitude, trying to make sense of that one day. We know that she'll eventually meet up with Simon within the year, but the real tragedy is that the shelter she finds has been compromised, meaning the community Elise was entrusting her daughter with had entirely perished. Because of this, Marceline spends her time in the shelter plagued by a blinking red light, which unbeknownst to her was a heartfelt message from Elise intended to comfort her and absolve her from guilt. Honestly, I couldn't stop crying at this moment, and it makes my heart so heavy knowing Marcy was deprived of this voicemail as a child. Instead of knowing that she was loved despite having demonic qualities, Marceline taught herself some unhealthy coping mechanisms. She learns to self-soothe by proclaiming, "If they're scared of me, it's because I wanted them to be scared." If Marcy can't control how others perceive her positively, she'll control how they perceive her negatively by making her rejection into a cruel joke for her to laugh at. If she's seen as an imperfect monster, she'll show them she's the perfect monster. This go big or go home attitude is what fuels her spiteful breakup song with PB. In the present, Marceline feels betrayed that her girlfriend brought the Morrow and an entire tech setup just in case she failed to defeat Larvo. And PB has been a little jealous of all the attention Marcy has been getting from the glass people all day. While Marceline wants to feel supported, PB wants to be taken seriously, just like the last time they were here. With the help of her mother's message and Glass Boy's insistence on mimicking her vibe, Marcy realizes that she's grown a lot since she was young and angry. Even when the Glassassins destroy her favorite base, she'd rather head back to her girlfriend than stay and fight them. This moment feels like a callback to the story of Marcy's childhood toy, Hambo. Like her base, Hambo was a precious possession of Marceline's. Hambo was sold to a witch by her ex Ash, because its sentimental value was the perfect ingredient for casting spells. In the episode Sky Witch, Bubblegum was able to trade her most precious possession, her Marcy Rock Band tee, in exchange to get Hambo back for Marcy. Now, it's Marcy's turn to let a treasured item go to preserve the well-being of her partner. At the end of the episode, Marcy and Bubblegum have reunited and are trapped in the collapsing forge with Glassboy and Larvo. In the face of certain death, Marcy now has a new song for Bubblegum, Monster, and it perfectly blends all of the themes of this episode and her entire character arc together. In the lyrics of Monster, Marcy admits that she's built a wall around her emotions by writing herself off as a monster. In the black and white binary of being absolutely perfect or being an absolute monster, Bubblegum's love has introduced her to shades of gray, or rather, shades of pink. Marcy now sees that she isn't the monster that she thinks she is, and instead of fearing the vulnerability that exposes, she's open to letting herself be a little bit soft. Because while it's new and scary for her, it's also better for her in the long run. During the song, we also learn about the emotional baggage that Larvo carries, and how the dragon let a negative view of itself perpetuate its rage. But Monster is about self-acceptance of all your imperfections, and this message allows Larvo to shed its fiery, destructive self-loathing and take the form of the mutant butterfly it truly is on the inside. Between Larvo exposing their cracked forehead and the glass people accepting their own faults, we see that Obsidian is ultimately a lesson of universal acceptance. We all have our damages, or cracks, that make us imperfect. And hiding and hating those parts of ourselves can be unhealthy and even detrimental to others. These flaws that we harp on in the privacy of our thoughts are actually more commonplace than we realize, and only by being vulnerable and accepting of others and their flaws can we find peace of mind. Now, before we address the big Jake elephant in the room, I want to be a thorough fangirl and shoehorn in a few other callbacks and cameos peppered in Obsidian. Early in the ep, it was great to see my boy Choose Goose shows up. Silly Choose Goose, always selling useless items, and now he's smuggling illegal moisturizer. When we first see Simon in this episode, Glassboy busts in on him playing one of the oldies, Remember Me, at an open mic night. It definitely made me feel feelings to hear Simon sing that song as himself instead of as the Ice King this time. It's super interesting that the song takes on a whole new depth now that it's a lament and not a cry for help. We also hear PB screaming, Egress! In reference to the Hall of Egress episode where Finn gets trapped in a mind prison for a bunch of years. Okay, so let's talk about the implications of that ending. After playing Monster, Simon shows up way too late to save them with a crew of banana guards, Finn the human, and Jake's granddaughter Bronwyn. Finn has aged quite a bit since we last saw him. I'd guess that he's at least in his early 30s here. He has a short, scruffy beard and a large tattoo of Jake on his chest. Bronwyn has grown up a lot too, and her style is incredible. To refresh your memory, she's the daughter of Jake's son Kim Kil-wan and his wife Pat. That makes her DNA quite the mashup. She's half bear, 1/4 rainicorn, 1/8 magical dog, and 1/8 shapeshifter. In addition to being an incredible skater, Brownie can also teleport herself via lightning using her rainicorn horn. The distinct lack of Jake at the end of the episode is causing speculation to run wild. Where the heck is he? Did he just not come on this particular adventure with them? Or worse, did he die? On one hand, lots of people get tattoos with their friends while they're still alive. But on the other hand, the flowers surrounding Jake on the tat look suspiciously like they might represent a memorial to me. But could Jake really be dead? Jake's true age is a little confusing to figure out. Although he states in one episode that he'll probably live another 100 years, and seems to imply that magical dogs live longer than even humans, we don't know exactly how magical dog years progress in comparison to human years. In Jake the Star Child, he and Finn are shown as babies together and appear to be the same age. But when Jake graduates high school, Finn is still a baby. This suggests that Jake aged much faster than Finn in the first years of his life. But in the BMO episode, Jake appears to be a teenager when Finn is a young child. So I'm not sure how magical dog aging works. Many fans have theorized that Jake is possibly immortal due to his alien DNA, but we don't have any concrete proof of that yet. Regardless of Jake's age, it's possible that he died due to something other than old age. With 2 more episodes left, Distant Lands is building to its final installment focused on Finn and Jake. After seeing how conclusive Obsidian was for Bubbeline, tracking them from the first moment they met to the point where they start happily spending eternity together, I wouldn't be surprised if Distant Lands gives us an emotional capstone to Finn and Jake's friendship. Although it would absolutely break my heart into a million billion pieces, we might see Jake pass on and leave his adventure legacy to Bronwyn. Maybe he's not dead though. Maybe he's just chilling off-world with Prismo and Finn took Bronwyn road tripping to keep him company in the meantime. Man, I hope that's the case, because it would suck to lose Jake. I already can't handle movies or TV shows where the dog dies, let alone Jake. Another theory I have is that Jake might be off on an adventure with Finn's dad, Martin Mertens. After his appearance in the BMO installment, I've been trying to figure out whether or not they're going to resolve some of Finn's parental angst in these Victory Lap episodes. Perhaps our emotions are just being played with here and Jake's absence in Obsidian has something to do with Martin? Like, maybe they're talking it out, dad to dad. Okay, I don't want this to end on a potential bummer, so let's roll a clip of Marcy and Peebles smooching again! That was obviously my favorite moment in Obsidian, but finding out more about Marceline's mom was a pretty close second. Let me know what you thought about the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe to Nerdwire, and stay tuned for more upcoming videos about Adventure Time Distant Lands.